This episode of Empty Betters is brought to you by DraftKings. The NBA 82 game grid is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for the high stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40 or more? It's your call. Here's something special for first timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 261 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes, and I'm going to toss it across the screen to my other co-host, Mr. Nick Manella. What's going on?
Not a whole lot, actually, just kidding. A whole freaking lot, boys. We're at that weird part in the first round. I know we were just talking about this, but they've given us that like extra rest and travel days once you clear like the game 3 or game 4 like little span here. So everything I've like taught myself in the last week is now wrong of who's playing tonight, who played last night, who's playing tomorrow night. It's all messed up. So yeah, weekend was a little all over the place, but we got some good hockey to get to.
What a weekend of Stanley Cup playoff hockey. We had 4 games on Saturday, 4 games on Sunday, all spread out perfectly by the NHL, the one time they do scheduling right here. But before we get to all of that, I'm going to toss it across the screen to my other co-host, Mac Vogel.
What's good? Yeah, dude, it is it's a great time of year. It's confusing in the best way, like Nick said. I'm so like used to like I like knowing what other games are the same night as like my game, like the Caps game. Like, okay, we play the same night as LA, but then now with the day off, like Nick said, it gets all fumbled around. So all I know is there's excellent hockey games on every single night, and that's pretty fucking cool. So what more can you ask for?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of just like, and this is just a slice inside the mind of what it's like to be a part of the show, but I set up my day every day thinking about like, okay, what games do I get to watch? And then I'm like mildly disappointed that Jersey and Carolina start 30 minutes offset from the Caps. But then I remember I don't have to watch any of the Jersey Carolina games, so it's just a win for me anyways.
Wow, no shade thrown there whatsoever. Little future, what is that, foreshadowing? Is that what it's called? Where you know who your opponent's going to be? Not that you
Yes.
guys have sealed it up yet, but pretty
Correct.
close.
Nor has Carolina.
Nor
Might I
has
add?
Carolina.
Might I add?
And speaking of the scheduling, we're recording this on Monday night, so we've got Florida Tampa going on right now, and then we've got the Colorado Dallas game coming on at night. But the day you're listening to this on Tuesday, they've got 4 games, all between 7 and 10 p.m. start times Eastern, which is pretty wild.
That's awesome. I'm pumped for that. I don't mind staying up for these late ones, but like that 11 o'clock one the other night, I'm not gonna lie, that was a challenge. I feel like I'm getting old now that I have to say that, but
Oh, then
that,
what does that make me? God. Little foreshadowing for round 2 there, but we'll get to all of that here in a second. Before we start, I'm going to be a little selfish here. My team's been out for a very long time, but they're stealing the headlines on this wonderful Monday of Stanley Cup playoff hockey.
I don't know about headlines, but like go ahead, afterthought.
Mike Sullivan has been fired. And I know that the headlines say they've parted ways. The way I interpret that press conference from Kyle Dubas today, Mike Sullivan was fired by Dubas as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he is now a free agent. I will tell you all this right now. By Friday of this week, he will be at MSG and he will be in red, white, and blue, and he will be the coach of the New York Rangers. Let's just end that there.
So you're that confident.
There is not a doubt in my mind.
You don't think there's
So
any chance anymore of Boston, or I even heard like Vancouver?
I think I understand the Vancouver rationale with Rutherford being over there. They've got a lot of ex-Pens guys. I
Right.
understand Boston. His son-in-law, Charlie McAvoy, plays for the
right.
team. He used to coach, I think he was an assistant coach in Boston previously. He's born there. But all the guys that he wanted on that Four Nation squad, like Kreider, Trocheck, Fox, JT Miller, I'm pretty certain he's gonna be over in New York here. So we'll see. It's a big day in the Penguins' history, at least. I give a tip of the cap to Mike Sullivan. I think it's definitely time, but man, he gave me some really good hockey memories, so I appreciate that from him.
Yeah, it's a big day. Sidney Crosby makes his first move as GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins by firing his coach. So yeah, big one.
Before we move on, I have one question about that, and I heard a lot of people on Twitter kind of asking this exact same thing. If you're Rangers fans and you're like, "Oh, thank God Laviolette's gone," what is Mike Sullivan that Laviolette isn't?
It's a fair point.
Yeah.
It's a school old school, right? Like
Like
he's
he's got one more cup than him, but
mhm.
other than that, I mean, they're both like old school hard ass.
It's
I
tough to tell. It's tough to tell because I do think, the back-to-back cups helps, but I was texting my good friend Mark. We all know Mark, friend of the show. Like, how is he going to be without Sidney Crosby
right,
leading the way? That's a
yeah,
huge factor. I also think there's something to be said. Did he overstay his welcome? Probably, but 10 years as a head coach, I don't think Laviolette has ever gotten close to that, if I'm
true,
not mistaken.
true.
I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it behind closed doors, but I kind of get where you're going with it.
Yeah.
How do you feel just as a Penguins fan about him going to the Rangers? Because I'll be straight up. I hate that idea so much. And I know Mac makes a great point about like what's different than Peter, but I really just don't like the mix of what my brain is telling me Sullivan could do with a locker room that's a lot more competent, no offense, than the Penguins lineup.
Yeah, it's a little scary in terms of being a Rangers hater. Is there anything I can do? Like, no, it's just the way the cookie crumbles. I love Mike Sullivan. If he's, coaching the Rangers in the Cup final, honestly, as painful as this might be, I'd probably pull for him because I love him that much. Like
Damn.
he's like it's kind of like Trotz, like he'll always hold a
Fuck
special
that. I want
spot.
another ring, man. Yeah,
I wasn't rooting for the Islanders if they made it to the cup while he was coaching them. I'll tell you
no
that.
chance.
It's just I don't know. It's weird. There's so much nostalgia there. It's 10 years. Like it's a third of my life. It's over a third of my life. It's
That's
wild.
crazy.
Yeah, it's over 33% of my life. Mike Sullivan's been the coach, so it's hard for me to
It's crazy
like.
when you say that because, like, when you say like long tenured Penguins coaches, the first one that comes to my mind just because of when I grew up is going to be Disco Dan.
Yeah, and that was like six years. Yeah,
Right. That
oh
wasn't
nine to
even
15.
Who also just
crazy
got
long.
canned.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of coaches available. I could go on for hours about this, but I know the listeners definitely want to hear about the playoffs, the Caps, probably one of the best playoff games we've seen in recent memory in game three. We're going to talk about all that here very shortly. But real quick, just a playoff update. I always like to start the episodes with a little fun stat just to kind of, maybe give a little state of the union of where everything's at. And this comes to us from John Butchiegross on Twitter. Teams in this postseason have converted on 26.9, so 27. Have the teams have covered, excuse me, teams have converted on 27% of power play opportunities through Sunday's games. That is a record for single Stanley Cup playoffs since tracking began in the 70s. So teams on the power play are absolutely humming at the moment.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, they are. I'm not surprised that that's up just with how much scoring is up right now. But when you think about to some of those teams that had those loaded power plays in the early 80s, I mean, your early 80s Islanders, your mid to late early 80s or Oilers and everything. Like, I mean, those Flyers teams that were still good back then, I mean, they were seriously loaded. So those are some pretty sweet numbers.
I think
Yeah,
that also tells me like teams who have a couple of really good 5-on-5 players and teams that have some really solid penalty kill units are maybe your teams that you want to look for making a deep run in this year's postseason with that kind of stat.
It's a great point.
Well, let's kick things off with the Washington Capitals. We know that's why most of the people are here. This is a great series so far, in my opinion. Way more entertaining than I thought it would be. I know Game 4 just happened, and the Caps have now taken a 3-1 lead, but we need to talk about Game 3 because that was one of the most entertaining games, and it's not just because the Habs won. Trust me, I love that part just as much as some of you listening do, but that was chaos. And what took SportsCenter by storm, Tom Wilson and Josh Anderson duking it out in the bench at the end of the second intermission. What was your guys going through your head? Like, I just need to know.
As soon as I saw that, oh, like, hey, we're all gonna walk down or we're gonna go off the ice at the exact same time, I'm like, well, that's the dumbest idea I've ever seen. That's the worst idea. I don't know who came up with that one, but wow, what a moronic thing that was. And then, the fracas starts and you're like, oh, okay, it's kind of been like this after every whistle. They're just gonna, face wash, wrestle each other to the ground, a couple gloves to some, faces, and that'll be it. And the next thing I know, I see Tom Wilson and Josh Anderson like with a full-blown linesman just like between them, like somersaulting through like the Caps bench. That's easily the most 90s hockey thing I've seen like since probably the 90s. So
It was
I
kind of like a Tasmanian devil, like
literally,
tumbleweed or something,
yeah.
like a big like cloud of just like punches and shit, just
Yeah.
like rolling through.
Like in a cartoon when like two people are like rolling down the stairs fighting, you just
Yes,
see like a
exactly.
dust ball with like fists and stuff. I
Yes,
mean,
exactly.
you're not wrong. That's exactly what it was like. My immediate thought then is like, oh shit, both of these guys are gonna get a game. Like they're gonna
Yeah,
get tossed. And I'm
I'm kind
honestly
of surprised
surprised
they
they
didn't.
didn't, right?
Mostly just because of like I think the two reasons is one because like the official is there and he's kind of catching some strays, honestly. Like I
He
feel like
was.
they both kind of hit him. And two, like I feel like there's just I feel like it's one of those rules almost like when you're like a player on the bench and then you like get on the ice to fight someone or something like that, where it's like if you like get, I don't know, the NHL is weird about like where you are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're like, okay, you can do this here at this time, but not over there at this time. I would have just
Right.
figured that that was one of those things that was like an automatic, uh, no, but
Yeah, I figured the league would try and just like nip that in the butt a little bit. Just be like, hey, like we all saw you do this. This ain't happening again. You're both
right.
getting the rest of this game, maybe something else,
Well,
just to be
what's
like
interesting
the don't do it
is
again kind of.
they so how they did end up handling it, and
Yeah.
I'm cool with this, is just that I guess the league called both teams and they were
Yeah.
like, listen,
Yeah.
no one's getting sussied, but like this is not how the rest of this series is going to go. And if you don't adhere to that, then there will probably be sussies. So
Didn't the refs like stand at the spot in game 4 where it
Hmm.
happened to kind of just
yeah.
make sure nobody? Okay, yeah. So I didn't
Yeah.
dream that. And then also in game 3, this is I hate that we're going back a few days because we got to talk about game 4, but LT gets clocked by
Yeah.
Dylan Strome.
And
Caps Nation goes into a panic, like he's out for the playoffs. He can't put weight on his leg. Montembeau goes out. I don't even know why or what the play that happened
Think
that
it was a
caused that.
groin allegedly. That's what people are saying. I
so he
didn't.
was like exercising his groin, trying to come back. Like a couple people said he was in the hallway, like outside the room, like working his groin out. I don't know what that means, but
Interesting.
what I think is interesting about yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
Um,
was in the hallway last night working my
so
groin
when he
out.
does it in the hallway, it's fine. When I do it, it's oh my God, everyone get out. Like,
Hello, HR.
right.
There's a man stretching his groin by the bathroom.
It's okay. He'll be back in 3 to 5 games. We need him for the playoff push. Uh, LT, did you guys see him get absolutely like bonked with a freaking slash earlier? I think it was by Suzuki. And I'm glad they did call a penalty on the play because he's like driving to the net, kind of tied up with a Caps player, literally comes straight down, not intentionally, but over the head, just chop, and like the heel of the stick got Thompson right on the like bridge of the helmet, and
Interesting.
Oof.
I could tell that absolutely rung his bell.
Was that before or after the
I would
injury?
say it's like 3 or 4 minutes before.
Okay. Well, what's interesting is they asked Thompson after game four, they were like, hey, like, so one of the reporters was like, hey, we didn't think, like, a lot of people didn't think we'd see you again. Certainly not like the next game. Like, are you good? Like, can you tell us anything about like what happened with Strom and all that? And I'm sure they told him not to like disclose the injury specifically, but he basically said that he got his bell rung, which makes sense because his head kind of does get hit by like Strom's leg and or maybe even went into the post or something. But
Right.
he says that it basically what he was trying to say was that it wasn't the leg, it was that he stood up too fast and then like lost his balance. And that's why he needed like help getting off the ice, which is weird because it totally does look like he's like favoring the leg. So I can't tell if that's smoke and mirrors or if that is or if he just like was a little bit like dizzy or something and then
Right.
like they concussion protocoled him and turns out he was fine later. Like I don't know. It's all speculation, but what I do know is he played game four and he played a hell of a game.
I wouldn't be surprised if, initially I thought he just got the wind knocked out of him because Strom hit him and kind of hit him and sort of like up, like up
Yeah, it
high,
could
like
be
maybe
like a
around like the
gut
neck or the
thing. Yeah.
chest. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it's just misdirection.
Hmm.
Well, it was a pretty messy game for the Caps in game three. A couple failed zone exits, if you will, that led to some Montreal goals, just some unnecessary turnovers. And I watched real time because I was at a house of a fellow friend with some other Caps fans watching that. And let's just say they were panicked, especially after the injury. But you go to game four, and like Max said, Thompson plays great. Caps go back to the Bell Center, which has just been incredible atmosphere from what I can tell off the Sportsnet feed.
It really has.
And the Caps take down the Canadians 5-2 in game four. And the one headline that everyone's talking about is the game-changing play. Tom Wilson, what is Joe Beninati's phrase that he did in Colorado? Search and destroy or like something
Yeah.
like that. He literally searched and destroyed Alex Carrier, and Carrier left the game. The Caps scored a goal as a result of that hit, and they never looked back.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Carrier, broke rule number one, head down, looking at the puck, trying to find the puck, and then next thing he knows, he's looking up and just seeing bright white lights. So I obviously hope he's okay. You don't ever want to see anyone get seriously injured. Seemed like he just, had his bell rung, for lack of a better word. But what a play. I mean, hit of the postseason, hit of the regular season, hit of 2025. That's just a no-brainer for me. And clean as a baby's ass. I don't want to hear anyone saying that that's a dirty hit because if you do, you just don't know hockey.
You're literally just outing yourself as a non-puck knower
Correct.
if you're having a problem with that hit. So
And that's no homer bias. I would say
it's
if it was
not.
a
It's
dirty hit,
really
I've
not.
seen him hit
I
dirty
swear.
before. That is a clean hit.
Oh, I've watched Tom Wilson deliver plenty of bullshit hits, and I will be
Right.
the first one to say, like, yeah, he shouldn't have done that. There
Yeah.
was nothing wrong with this hit. Harry, what's your take on it as a very objective third party?
Nothing wrong with the hit. When it happened, I screamed. It wasn't a scream. I was like, oh, like, and
It was loud. It was
Layla was like
very
scrolling on
loud.
her phone and she like perked up. She's like, "Oh my God!" I was like, "Yeah, he killed someone." I tweeted it today. I said, "If you think that's dirty, you're not a CPK. You're not a certified puck knower. Like, it's
Yeah.
just it is what it is."
Exactly.
I mean, is it fair to call that like a minor car accident on ice?
Kind
Yeah,
of, dude. What's crazy is Alan May said on the Monumental broadcast that because they track this now, Wilson was only going 15 miles per hour, which is nowhere near like a top speed for like an NHL player. It's probably only about half speed, I would say, or somewhere
Right.
around maybe a little more than half speed. Because there's a lot of other like the people who have issues with this hit, they're like grasping at stuff. Because first they try and say head contact, then you can break it down and say he had his head down. Principal point of contact is the chest. When you follow through, you're gonna end up hitting his head a little bit. There's no avoiding that, especially with his head down. And then you got other people saying, okay, well then it should have been charging. And it's like charging. He
He didn't
he was
drive through it.
gliding. He was
Yeah.
gliding into the hit. He didn't leave his feet until that's the other thing. People don't understand. when you make contact that hard, you're gonna come off the ice. Like like,
Well, that's
but
just physics.
but you're
Yeah.
not jumping into the hit. That
Right.
is a completely different thing. So a
It's
lot of people
transfer of
like
energy. Holy shit.
it's just one of those days where I kind of couldn't go on the internet that much because there's so many takes and I don't have the time to like give people a lesson on like the basic rules of hockey.
And
And
I don't think they want a lesson. Like there's
No,
nothing you could
no.
say that's gonna make that person go, "Oh, you know what? You're right." Like if they're commenting on it on a social media post, they're doing it because they're angry or agitated or,
And it's one
pick
thing
one.
for the fans to say this, but I'm a little disappointed in like Marty St. Louis and like Dobish, like the actual players and coaches of the Habs, like complaining about the fucking refs, dude. Like,
dumb.
That's
holy
pretty
shit,
bad. Also,
get a grip, bro.
tell me you're rattled without telling me you're
It's
rattled.
fucking
Yeah,
embarrassing. And
it's
I
dumb.
think this might be a good time for me to interject my little comment that I have. I was talking to my sister earlier, and I got to give her credit because she kind of hit me with this, and I kind of had a brain blast moment. But we were venting about how like what is it about specifically like fans of Canadian NHL teams that like there's when they're like losing or when they're like things don't go their way, they can just be so insufferable. And she said that they're kind of like the incels of the hockey world. And it's almost like, like incels are like they make their whole personality about like wanting to get girls and they can't get girls. And it's like that, but sub girls for the Stanley Cup. Like their whole personality is about wanting to win the Stanley Cup, but that's the one thing they
Right.
can't fucking do.
Me in eighth
And
grade.
maybe that's why they're so fucking butthurt about it. I don't know, but it
That's spot
it made a
on.
lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like they just I mean, I get like the crowd being rowdy and you want your team to win, but they were booing and complaining about some shit like during the game, like every like little bump or like if
Well,
there was some it's just nuts.
they got like dinged in game four, the Habs. They got dinged for what, like three interference calls that were objectively the correct call.
Yeah.
I think the refs were trying to clamp down on it a little bit. And that was sort of the moment I noticed them start to go, well, that's not fair. I'm like, where have you been for games one through three, buddy? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
holy shit.
Yeah, and like we're talking about the hit, the fights, all this drama. We haven't really talked about like either of the games, but game four in particular, after that Wilson hit, Duhaime gets a nice little goal, game tying goal for the Caps. The Habs are up 2-1 at that point in the second. And then how about Mangiapane? That shot to ice the game in the third period was an absolute laser, using the defenseman as a screen. It was a beautiful goal. I was like, I didn't know Mangiapane had that in him.
And the balls to not pass it to Ovi on that
Right.
play is
Right? I was like,
insane.
he looked off
He's to the
Ovechkin.
right of you with basically a wide open net.
Yeah.
Objectively a better look at the net. There's no defender in front of
Yes.
him. And but he I give him credit. It's hockey IQ right there at its finest because he knows everyone's thinking he's gonna do that. The
Oh,
goalie's
Dobesh is
thinking
already
that.
moving.
Yeah. The goalie's thinking that. Defense
Yeah.
is thinking that. Everyone in the stadium is thinking that. And he says, I got a good shot. I'll just have a rip.
It's like, no,
Boom.
I'm
Oh
good.
yeah.
Done.
I got it. Yeah.
And then of course, there are a couple empty net goals. Tom Wilson getting one of them, giving the crowd a little smirk. They had pictures of his face in the
Him banging
urinals.
on the glass is so
It
funny.
was very fitting. It was very fitting.
I'm so happy for Dewey though. He's having such a great
Yeah.
series. He's had such a great year with the Caps. From what we've seen on social media, he loves being here. Team loves having him. He's clearly already becoming a crowd favorite, whether or not he ingests the starting lineup card. But just to see
Doggy.
him like get, that huge goal to tie it up and then the empty net to pretty much ice it was just really, really cool because I think it's just been so well deserved for him this year.
Absolutely.
So game five, Wednesday night, back at Cap One, series shifts back to DC. I am officially declaring this series in a non-jinxing fashion, but in a wagering fashion, over. The series is over.
I have no comment.
I know. I don't need you don't need
Yeah.
to
I
have
just
one.
knocked on some wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I from what I saw of Montreal in the first two games, like they can't win on the road in DC against that team, especially with Montembeault out. I don't know if he's going to play, Not no shot. What's the guy's name?
Dobesh.
Dobish.
Dobesh.
Yeah.
No shot at him. He played honestly not that bad in game four, but Montembeau was clicking.
That's a great point, Harry. We just don't know what's going on with Monty, so I feel like it's just going to be, unfortunately, 48 hours of speculation articles about this, which is where we're at in the playoffs anyways. But yeah, that's a huge change up for them. I thought Dobesh looked okay when he came in, but like that Duhaime goal, that's one that I think Montembeau probably has at this point in the series. That's one that I'm sure Dobesh is going to want to like have back. So yeah, I
He
think
uh he did make some nice saves for
he
sure.
did.
That one on McMichael off the
Yeah.
boards, really nice.
No, he played all right. He played all right. Habs can't get any scoring chances. I think
The
if my
five on five is brutal.
it's
I mean,
brutal,
you
dude.
want to
It's
fucking
so
complain
bad.
about penalties and whatever. You're not even like they're
Yeah.
not playing. Like I saw somebody on Twitter today be
No.
like, "We deserve to win that game," and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking
No.
about?"
Yeah.
I think if my memory's correct, it was right after Mangiapane scored. I'm pretty sure I remember on the TV screen they showed that the Habs had 15 shots on net with like what, a couple minutes left in the third
Yeah,
They
period.
had one
they
shot on
finished with
goal
18.
following the Wilson hit.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, the series is over. Here's the bet for Wednesday night. Everybody listen up. All right. It's gonna be like 2-0 Caps, maybe like 2-1 Caps. It's gonna be a tight checking game. Assholes are puckered for Montreal. And then it's gonna be like they're gonna pull the goalie with three-ish minutes left. Caps team total over 3.5. They're gonna get two empty nets and they're gonna cover the puck line. Book it. I promise.
Wow.
So
I
it'll be
like
all
that.
all empty nets. I promise.
Hey, I'd love to see it. The Caps home faithful crowd deserves a series win on home ice. The last home series win against New York Islanders 10 fucking years ago. Actually,
Wow.
10 years ago, I think yesterday, like to the
Wow.
day.
Wow.
Can you
Wow. So on
believe
the
that?
cup run, you guys clinched
So
all on the road.
Every single one we won in 2018, we won the series on the road, all
so
four.
that was the one against the Islanders that went seven where
Game seven,
Kuznetsov won it, right?
Kuzi with about 6 or 7 minutes left takes the
Wow.
lead, and then we hold it down from there. Yep.
Really quick story about that. So I was at Towson at the time. Harry, I don't know if you were at Towson yet.
15 now.
Okay. That was when Baltimore sort of had a little bit of a riot situation going on. So
That's
like
right.
we had the
Yeah.
campus-wide like curfews and everything because we're only, 15, 20 minutes away. So they were like, you can't be out of your dorms, you can't be doing X, Y, and Z. They emailed everyone's parents and were like just to explain what's going on. And so like I remember my parents being like where are you right now? Like what's going on? And I was like, oh, I'm at Bateman's with like the entire fraternity watching Caps Islanders game
That's
seven. They're like,
hilarious.
go home.
That's so funny. Yeah, man. I didn't realize it's been that long for a home clincher.
Yep. One last comment, and then we can seriously move on to some of these other teams. But I do think Alexi Protas will return on Wednesday. Sounded like he was pretty close to playing last game, ended up not going. They also asked Carberry if the fact that we're winning 3-1 will impact the decision to play him or not, and he said no. He'll
Good.
play as soon as he's ready to play. So
Yeah, I mean, he's
Sounds
just
right.
been such a valuable piece to have in this lineup. I know we've talked about that all year, but a huge miss for him is not having him on that penalty kill. And
yeah.
honestly, shout out to the penalty kill for picking up the slack of him and Marty Faravari not being there.
For sure. All right, we're gonna move to a couple other Eastern series. We've got Carolina and Jersey. This one got a little interesting for a tiny bit of time and is now back to where things should be. But in game three, Simon Nemec, a guy that you kind of have to root for, young kids, kind of been battling to get his way into the lineup, tons of skill, high draft pick. He nets the OT winner in game three for Jersey to claw back into the series down 2-1. But then Carolina did their thing in game four, and they just dominated the entire time. And Svechnikov had a hat trick. They won the game 5-2. The series is also probably over. I do think it's worth noting that Anderson left the game after colliding with Timo Meyer, replaced by Kochekov. Don't know what the latest news is on that, but Freddie Anderson getting hurt, like this isn't really a surprise. I hate to put it that way.
Yeah, I thought Kochetkov looked okay when he came in, but we're definitely going to need a bigger sample size. I mean, hey, if you're Jersey and you need something to turn this thing around, you're probably looking at that with your fingers crossed. But I think, the Devils just, we've talked about it from the start. They're way too banged up. They're way too outworked right now. They're not going to be able to match Carolina's energy at home. I'm sorry, Jersey fans aren't going to like to hear that, but that's just a fact right now. So, yeah, a lot needs to go wrong, I think, for the Hurricanes, for the Devils to have a chance to get back in this one.
Yep. Or Mac, you got something to say?
Yeah, not much else. I would agree. I do think I said a little bit last time, but I do think New Jersey should be proud of the way that they've hung in there against a good Hurricanes team. I think that they have taken it to the Canes a lot more than a lot of people might have thought they could. And honestly, I think that like there were some moments so far in the series where I think they had the Canes on their heels a little bit. So with such a depleted lineup, I think they should be proud of the way they've played so far.
Yeah, for sure. Not too much more to say on that one. Series over. Toronto and Ottawa. So Ottawa avoids the sweep by Jake Sanderson saving the city of Ottawa in overtime to force a game 5 back in TO. The Senators win that game 4, 4-3. A lot of people saying, is this like a must win all of a sudden? Because you know how this is going to go. If Toronto loses game 5 and then it goes to 6, everyone's like, oh God, they have that reputation. There's that history. It's the Leafs, like Battle of Ontario. So is this like a must win game 5? Is that a thing?
I won't say must win, but like 80%. I think the thing that is really eye-opening to me is this series is 3-1. It's 2 goals away from being 2-2. It's 2 goals away from being 3-1 the other way. Like
Yeah.
multiple overtime games in this series. I fully am of the school of thought that what I've seen from the Leafs is different this year. I think they look great. They're getting great goaltending. Defense looks great. They're getting scoring from defensemen. I think they had goals from defensemen in the first 3 games, which is awesome for them. They're definitely the better team, but to me, Ottawa's just too pesky. You can't give them anything. If you leave them time and space to hang around, they will find it.
I do think there's something to be said about some of these young guys on Ottawa just now finally getting to taste a playoff victory too. It's like, okay, bang, like we won. We won in overtime in front of the home crowd. I do think that gives you a jolt of energy. And I think, Brady is the captain. I'm sure he gets that group together after that and says, we're not done at all. Like there's no quit in that locker room. I can almost guarantee you that. So I also almost look at it like I do the Cap series, where it's like it's a little bit of a trap. In that, yes, like if Toronto doesn't win game 5 at home, and if the Caps don't win game 5 at home, bang, all of a sudden you have to travel again. You have to go back over. I mean, it's a little worse for the Caps to go all the way back to fucking Bell Center again. So I think there is a little bit of pressure to be like, fuck, we really just want to win this home game, get some rest, not have to go back on the road on our heels a little bit, try and not have them force a game 7. So yeah, I think like if Ottawa gets the first goal or something in that game, all of a sudden look out because you're gonna start feeling that pressure on the other side of the ice.
Well
Yeah,
said. Well said.
I I don't know how this is going to shake out because we've had 3 straight games go to overtime. Are we going to have a fourth? I'm not really sure. I think Toronto has been the better team for the most part. I gotta give a second shout out in a row. Matthew Nyes is incredible,
Yeah.
and he's going to make a lot of money when he gets paid. But that goal he scored in that game 4 was nasty. He's got hands that somehow are quick like a tiny skill guy, but he's built like a shit brick house. So it's pretty deadly combo Toronto's got there.
Yeah, absolutely. He's looked great. This is definitely the pay me right fucking now coming out party for him.
Yep.
Going back, Mac, I know you talked about atmosphere a little bit. I hate how much blue is in Ottawa.
Oh,
Like
it's a
that
home game.
sucks.
Yeah.
And I understand why. We've talked at length on the show about how logistically that arena is essentially the equivalent of FedEx Field for, our contingent. So it's nowhere in the city center. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get to. There's no public transport and everything, but it just sucks because I I don't necessarily love the Sens, but I want them to have a fun playoff atmosphere when they play their, cross province rival at least.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. Um, what do you think happens game five? Leafs close it, or are we going six?
I think we're going six.
We're going
Ooh,
six. I fully believe it. And I think the reason why is what Nick said before. Ottawa should have another win already in the series. I
Right.
fully believe that. They should have won one of those games. Luck doesn't go your way, whatever it is that you want to nitpick. Sometimes you don't get the overtime goal, and they didn't. But I think that they deserve to not be down 3-1. And I think because of that, they'll find a way to claw out a victory here.
I want to say the Leafs are going to close it out, but man, Brady is telling the fans we're going to be back in this building, and I just have a weird feeling the Leafs are going to make this somehow stressful. So I agree with you guys. I think we're going to end up going six.
You know that Bugs Bunny scene where he like is playing baseball against the really, really big, strong guys, and then he just ends up playing every single position? That's what
Hmm.
Brady Kachuk is gonna do in game five. He's just like if he has to like go in goal with no pads and stop the puck with his face, he's gonna do that.
Hilarious. Uh, all right, we are going to talk. Can we talk about Lightning Panthers? That game's over.
We
Correct.
can. Yep.
All right, so
And holy shit, what a finish.
yeah, this one just ended as we're recording this. So game four concludes in Sunrise, and the Panthers win that one 4-2. And what I'm hearing is a pretty epic late comeback with an empty netter sprinkled in there, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Indeed. Unreal. I mean, first of all, the Bolts are up 2-1. They get a 5-minute power play, can't score. Then they take a penalty at the end of that. Cats score on it, gets waved off, offside. So if you're Tampa, you're like, okay, holy shit, get out of jail free card. They battle down the stretch. They're holding on, holding on. 3:47 to play. You have a 2-1 lead. You're thinking, okay, at least this is getting to overtime. Otherwise, we're winning in regulation. They surrender the tying goal and bang 11 seconds later, it's in the back of their net again. And now you're about to be down 3-1 the series, and that's what happens. Kind of reminded me of last year, Carolina and the New York Islanders. You remember Islanders are like I don't know, like a minute away from winning a game against
That's
the
right.
Canes, and not only do they surrender the tying goal, but like I think even less than tonight. It was like 7 seconds later, takes a
Yeah.
funny bounce off the boards, and like Varlamov misplayed it, and it's in the net again. And it's like the crowd's going nuts. This was a home game for the Cats as well, so that is a tough, tough loss for Tampa Bay. I know the series goes back to Tampa now, so they at least have that for them. But holy shit, you're 3 minutes away from taking this thing back home, tied 2-2. And then next thing you know, the Rats are raining down on the ice and you're down 3-1.
Yeah, that's the big swing game in the series because the difference between 2-2 and 3-1 is just polar opposite
Game
ends of the
five. We've
planet. I
seen it.
mean,
We've seen it with all these series so far. It's just so pivotal.
yeah, Tampa's weird this year. I know myself included, and I'm killing myself for this right
Game
now.
four, sorry.
Yeah, we're coming into this, super, super high on this team, and it just seems like with the exception of game three, they haven't really had luck with scoring. And credit to Florida because they played somewhat defensively well. I don't know where the hell the shooting the puck went for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but at the end of the
Hmm.
day, like you gotta get it on net and you gotta get it through and you've gotta do something. Because like I said, with the exception of what they scored five in game three, we're kind of looking at like one or two goal results here. I mean, even today, the goals
Yeah.
came within what, like 10 seconds of each other, just like two quick ones like that, and just
Yeah.
went quiet after that.
It doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. And I almost don't like it that they're going back to Tampa. I know that sounds weird, but that
Right.
No.
that crowd is so like they have such little tolerance for the Lightning's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's the type of crowd that if that game is like 3-0 in the first period, people will start leaving right
Oh,
then and there.
100%.
Like There's no belief. There's a bunch of fucking like fair weather fans that are like, I'm just gonna go to the pool.
Yeah.
Or Northeasterners that want to beat the traffic still somehow.
Yeah, right.
Well, Nick, I could tell you where maybe some of their shooting has gone, and that might be Mr. 91 in Nashville. I'm starting to wonder if maybe they could use a little bit of him right now in this series. A
Yeah,
Yeah.
little bit of
Would
yeah.
that
no.
have helped this year though?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I
Don't take his performance in Nashville. Like I feel
yeah.
like if he
Very
stayed,
true. Very
I
um,
true.
I
yeah,
also think playoff Stammer, it's the
it's different.
leadership. It's
Yeah,
more
that's a great point.
it's more than just like his abilities, but it's also his abilities. I mean, he's still a fucking fantastic player.
I'm just
I
shocked to see this from a John Cooper team. Like that's the
Well, he's
first
going
time.
against Paul Maurice team.
Well,
Yeah,
that, but also John Cooper has been flustered this
he
entire
has.
fucking time. Like I've
Yeah,
And
seen
big time today.
even tonight, yeah, he was freaking out at officials like
yeah.
multiple times. And speaking of officiating, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see it yet, but that Mikola hit, I think it's possible we could see some further discipline still.
Are
If
you
he's
thinking like one
it
or
wouldn't be more
three?
than that, I don't
Okay.
think. But if he's out for next game or something, I don't know. I mean, that makes a difference. Mikola is a very he's a big minute eater. He blocks a lot of shots. That would at least it would force Florida to make a decision and they'd be a little shakier on the back end.
I
Uh,
I just saw the hit and just saw the second part of the hit. Yeah, I think there's going to be a game at least.
It's like he goes after it's the intent part of it for me.
It
The hit
looks
is
really bad.
done. The hit is done. The guy's already like kind of on the ice and he goes back after him and hits him right in the head. I don't
Yeah.
I would not be shocked if there's further discipline.
Yeah.
a couple of the big guys for Tampa just even if they're on the score sheet, I just feel like I haven't really felt their presence. Hagel, he got suspended. We all know that. He's got 2 goals in this series, but I don't know, like a guy who was a
Got
point per
hurt
game.
tonight.
Yeah, like it's tough sledding for him. I know Kucherov had 3 assists in their win, but other than that, even though he had 3 assists, I really just haven't noticed him, and he seems frustrated.
That's a good way to put it. You're just kind of like where is everyone right now?
Yeah, and then I think I accidentally said Hagel earlier. I was talking about Point. He's got 2 goals in the
Mm,
series, but Brandon Hagel, I mean, he got suspended. He has no points
yeah.
and no
There you
points this
go.
series, and he was probably their second most consistent player all season. So not looking great. Don't have any prediction for Game 5. I want to see what happens with that Mikla stuff, and maybe even Ekblad. I don't know. We saw that
Yeah.
one too.
I mean, it was interesting though, like even when he came back in what game 3, him and Forsling were -4. And I think that's the first time Forsling's ever been -4 in his career, which Ekblad, we know he's been a Panther long enough to know that he probably had an entire season of averaging -4. But uh yeah,
Ekblad scored the big goal
he
tonight too,
did.
the game tying goal.
It's all steroids. They're still in his system. We're gonna move out west, and this series has just gotten a whole lot more fun. The Edmonton Oilers are born again and have risen from the ashes and have tied this series 2-2 in front of their Alberta faithful. Game 3, the Oilers smack LA 7-4 in a true McDavid, like just on I don't know it was an incredible performance by him. And then in Game 4 they win in overtime. Draisaitl netting the winner. He just knew it was going to happen. There's a lot of different storylines in some of these games. I know Mac was very fired up about the Byfield play where he could have cleared the puck. That went pretty viral. Um, I know there's been the coaches challenge chatter and how stupid that was. Evander
Very
Kane came
stupid.
back and he's scoring. Like there's all sorts of stuff. So what's the verdict?
There's also people saying, and rightfully so, that that Hiller, the Kings like interim coach or whatever, is making a pretty good case for himself to remain the interim coach in that he will no longer be so next year because he keeps doing this thing where he like switches up their system in the third period to basically like sit back. And it's like, dude,
Right.
do you know who you're playing against? Like you're playing against the Oilers who thrive off of having like that downhill, like when they're skating downhill and attacking you, when you keep putting the puck back in their hands to attack you, that's how you lose. And that's exactly what happened last game. They should have taken a 3-1 lead. And they blew it. It's not all Byfield's fault. That one's definitely going to haunt him. It's going to haunt Kings fans. If you look at the still image of that, where he's at holding that puck, and how much room he's got, I mean,
I mean, I
all
get
you
that
gotta
puck
do is
out.
just sky that one.
You
Just
get that puck
freaking
out.
do a little rainbow, and maybe it goes in the net. Even if it doesn't, you're killing 10 to 15 seconds, and
Take the icing,
that's
dude.
probably the game. Yeah, even that.
Right.
Fuck it.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, even with the icing, you kill 15 to 20 off of it. I think, Mac, you make a great point. It sort of looks like they're sitting back in the third period. And what I think is kind of interesting here is the Kings are essentially using like nine forwards and four defensemen. Their lineup is very, very top heavy. There's been some discussion about do they have depth issues. So I think these numbers are pretty telling. So Turcotte, these are like their bottom six skaters. Alex Turcotte is just averaging a tick over 4 minutes a game. Same for Trevor Lewis and Jeff Malott. Sam Hellenius is the lowest at about a tick under 3 minutes of
That's
ice time per
insane.
game. And then on defense, Brant Clark is right around 12 minutes a game, but then Jordan Spence just over 6 minutes a game, and Jacob Moraver 2.5 minutes per game. So it seems like they're kind of running out of gas in the third period because by contrast, Trent Frederick, who is the Oilers' most or least utilized forward, is playing well over 10 minutes a game. So it seems like I think this is where the Kings are running into some problems.
Yeah, and like they've played pretty well. Like I think this is a pretty shared opinion online from what I've read. The Oilers truthfully haven't looked all that good in this series, and yet it's 2-2, which is the scary part if you're a Kings fan, because it's like, well, they haven't played that well and it's
Yeah.
knotted up, and now you've got 97 and 29 heating up at the wrong time.
Yeah, and I think too, like, well, first of all, hats off to Darcy Kemper. He's been absolutely incredible, and throughout that OT last night, I mean, just some absolutely 10 bell saves. Um, I think that you're absolutely right, Harry. Like, they have not played well, and that's why getting a 3-1 lead would have been so huge and honestly would have been so funny. Like I would have loved to see what that Oilers team. I mean, we saw how animated and how upset McDavid was in the postseason, like in the cup final last year, where he's screaming at his teammates saying that's not good enough and all this shit. I wanted it so bad to see them down 3-1 and see
Yep.
what his reaction was going to be.
I just
And
wanted the
and
media fallout.
exactly. And instead, we get Leon Draisaitl on TNT telling Biz his hair looks nice and smiling and, looking like he's got a lust for life, which is, if Leon Draisaitl is smiling, something's wrong. That guy's
He doesn't
never
smile.
happy.
Good
So,
point. I mean, the thing for me is like when you look at everything that's happened to them, they've had leads in three and four and they've blown them. And I'm like, the last one, you had them. You were right there. You were so close. And I can think of like four or five instances where the Washington Capitals have done that to me in my lifetime. And it's the worst feeling on the planet knowing you have to wake up the next day and sit there for 24 hours while everyone analyzes the mistake that your team
Yep.
made.
hey, Curtis Glencross was almost a
Oh my
Capitals
God. Oh
legend.
my
We
God.
almost we almost finally made it through the second round by beating the
Oh,
Rangers on a Curtis Glencross goal. Instead, we surrendered the tying goal with what, like 30 seconds left, and then we lose that game, and then we lose that series. So,
is that the Mark Stahl one?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know.
Yeah.
They all run together.
Yeah.
So we move back to LA. They've been unbelievable at home this season, and they have sucked ass on the road. So this series has gone exactly as predicted, I guess, in one way.
What did I say at the beginning? The home team would win every single game of this series, and that's why LA in
True.
seven.
So you think,
I don't
okay,
know.
Nick,
I
what do
don't
you
know.
think?
I think I picked Kings in
You,
six or seven. I can't
you,
remember.
you holding true?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They bring the harmonica ladies back. I think they're fine.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. That's all they need. I think it's been interesting to see sort of like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde sides of Evan Bouchard in this series because he's
Dude,
made like four or five just like
awful.
Hall of Fame terrible plays that have
But
led
then,
directly to Kings goals. But then, I mean, tying the game, getting a
yeah,
massive power play goal. It's
unreal.
like
Holds up a picture of Mike Green. You can kill the
literally,
man, but not the idea.
What is
literally.
what's the thing I sent you today from Sportsnet? It was like he's at minimum 50
Yeah.
playoff games.
Yeah,
He's the second highest points per game all time amongst defensemen behind only Bobby Orr. That's
Yeah,
insane.
it's fucked up.
I don't even think Evan Bouchard and Bobby Orr should be in the same paragraph, let alone sentence.
they shouldn't be in the same zip code. Like,
But here we are. All right, that series has been fun. It's actually been probably my one of my favorite, if not my favorite series. It's gone over in every game too, so let's see if that stays true. Thank you, Skinner and Picard and McDavid and Leon. It's always fun. We're gonna
Wait,
move
real quick, last question. Do you start Picard or Skinner if you're the Oilers next game?
Picard. Oh my
Picard,
God.
Picard,
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ride it.
but if they lose that game and then you come back to
Then I go Skinner.
okay.
In a weird way, I feel like they're kind of getting the same out of both goalies.
Yep.
It's like it's
Yeah.
not necessarily affecting the game all that much. Like if this was another team out west that's
Two cheeks of the
Canadian,
same ass.
yeah, there you go.
Fair enough. Now, Mac, next question is to you. Do you start Connor Hellebuck in the next game because he's
Oh,
been pulled 2 games in a row?
Yes, you do, because you're not winning that series with Eric Comrie anyway, and if Helly's not going, you're not winning the cup. So you're either gonna get Helly going or you're gonna get eliminated anyway. So
So
yes, you
this
do.
is a,
could not agree more.
This is a theme in the West. Every series is tied 2-2 at the time of this recording, and the Jets and the Blues, after going to St. Louis for games 3 and 4, we are all knotted up at 2. Connor Hellebuck has been pulled in back-to-back games. Fans are freaking out. The Jets Twitter sphere is debating whether he should be the starting netminder in game 5, and if they lose game 5, what do they do in game 6? Like, it's all over the place. The Blues have looked great. I honestly think similar to the Oilers and the Kings, the Blues have hung in pretty much every game. They've looked really good. Strong effort. What are we thinking going into game 5 back with the whiteout in Winnipeg? Does Connor Hellebuck actually rise to the occasion here?
I feel like he kind of has to. Like I know that that's something stupid to say ahead of a playoff game where literally anything can happen, but I feel like he has to in front of that home crowd. I feel pretty good about that Jets roster to the point where I think they can get the win there. But right now, with how good the Blues are playing hockey, I mean, two huge wins at home.
Yeah.
You made the arguably what everyone is saying the greatest goaltender on the planet look pretty damn human over the course of both of those games. You got five unanswered goals the other day from five different goal scorers. So you're doing it by committee. I don't know. I think there's a lot of positive mo going into that room right now, too.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Nick. And back to what I said, I think the only way you win this series and the only way you're a serious contender throughout these postseason is with Hellebuck on his game. I think if you're Hellebuck, you want to play, right? There's no part of you that's like, oh shoot, I didn't play that well. Maybe we should let Eric Comrie play. Like that's not how hockey players are wired. That's not how
No.
goalies are wired. If you're him, you're like, get me back in there right now. I'm better than that. I want to win. Like I'm sure he wants another kick at the can. So I say give it to him. Let him. Now is the time to let him try and figure it out because he's either going to do it and then you're set for the rest of the postseason, or he's not and you're eliminated anyway. One thing to note here: everyone who's being like, "Oh, Hellebuck's like not actually that good of a goalie. He chokes in the postseason." Here's something to think about. Maybe, maybe, just maybe, the Jets shouldn't be starting this guy like 65 games a year, 4 years in a row. This season, just read some stats for you here. This season, he started 62 games. Last season, he started 60 games. The year before that, he started 64 games. The year before that, he started 66 games.
Yeah, shit.
That's like
He's a
Brodeur
fucking
numbers.
goalie, man. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know he's good, but like
Modern NHL,
you might want to like mix in some Eric Comrie, like
Yeah.
or some Laurent Brossoit in those past years or whatever it is. Like those guys are perfectly good enough to start 30 games or something. You don't have to lean on your guy that fucking hard. And I think that's something to look at, especially if they get eliminated here. Like that is too much hockey for a guy to play and for somebody who hasn't seen the Stanley Cup final that entire time. Like
Yeah.
that's a lot of fucking hockey games.
And then to ask them to take it a step further in the postseason,
Yeah, and then to
just
get
dial it
mad
up.
and make him the scapegoat every year and be like, "What the fuck
Right.
happened, dude? You sucked." It's like, holy fuck, I'm tired. Like,
Yeah, the Jets, like Connor, Scheifele, they've been pretty solid this series, but in terms of secondary scoring, I've been rather unimpressed at up this far. And when you look at the Blues, like Cam Fowler's leading the fucking team in points, so they're obviously getting secondary scoring.
And when you talk about the Jets secondary scoring, you're talking about the Winnipeg Kings, basically.
Yeah,
Actually, though,
yeah, pretty much.
Iafallo, Velarde, right?
yeah.
These are the
Yeah,
guys that
like
you're.
Nemestikov,
Yep.
Perfetti, like those kind of guys. I'm looking at them, but Hellebuck, it reminds me so much of Fleury after the Cup win in '09, where it was just like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? It was always like, they got to get Vokoun or they got to get Brent Johnson or they got to get Matt Murray. It's like all these backups to figure out what when the head case hits, like what are we gonna do? Hellebuck is 3-10 in his last 13 playoff games, which is just
Wow.
tough. So he did say after game four, he took press conference questions after the game. Very short, sweet, and to the point. He just said, I'm going to be better in game five. And that was it. And
That's what I'm talking about with that mentality. That's why you start
Yeah.
him again because it doesn't do you any good to let a guy like that sit and simmer on the game that he just stunk up.
yep.
Yeah. And let's be real. I love Eric Comrie. He's one of the best personalities in hockey, and he seems like
Yeah.
genuinely
And
the
he's a good
nicest human
goaltender
being
too. I'm
ever.
sure I'm
I
sure he'd
think
be fine if they started him, but
it would take multiple limbs that Hellebuck lost before I would start Eric Comrie over Connor Hellebuck in a playoff game.
So we all picked the Jets. Are we staying with that?
yes, I am. I mean, they're my cup winners, so
Yes, but now I'm kind of like actively rooting for St. Louis to win game five.
Right.
oh
I'm kind of
boy.
like, I'm kind of vibing with the St. Louis team,
No,
man.
fuck this Blues
I kind of
team.
am. I know
We
it's
need like
weird.
one of these series to go seven.
They will.
Uh,
Well, we've got
what I
four
really
two
want,
twos.
I just want the Jets to be the team that breaks the Canadian Cup curse because it would be so funny for like Toronto,
For the Atlanta
Montreal,
Thrashers to break
Ottawa.
the
All yeah,
Canadian Cup
literally
curse.
for
Yeah.
all those teams to be like, what the fuck, dude? We've been in line for how
Like
long?
we gave you this actually. It's
And this
American
and
property.
this guy gets to Disney World 2 hours late and gets the fast pass and fucking rides like 10 times the amount of rides as them, and it's just like, holy
I don't know what
shit.
you guys were complaining about. That was
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Well, Nick, you want something with a game seven? I've got a pretty good feeling after watching this series mighty close that we're gonna get seven out of this one. I'm most confident in this series going the distance. The Vegas Golden Knights and the Minnesota Wild somehow are tied 2-2. I have the Knights winning the cup. They have looked horrible up to this point. And kudos to Minnie. They've looked really good. So I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But man, this Vegas team, they are so lucky that this series is 2-2. That game four, I would have bet my rent payment that Minnesota was going to win that just from watching the first period. And somehow Ivan Barbashev saves the day for Vegas in overtime, even when their two best players. I know Eichel had a secondary assist that should have never really been an assist,
Right.
but Stone and Eichel are ghosts. They haven't done anything.
They both have 1 point, and that's it. Neither of them have a goal.
Yeah, it's just I don't know what's going on. I keep hammering these Jack Eichel props. I'm like, he's gonna wake up. He's gonna wake up. After two games, I was like, games three and four, yeah, book it. He's done nothing. Been a non-factor.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Vegas. I know there's been, Aiden Hill got pulled in one game. I know that they've had some some is an understatement. They've had some pretty decent scoring issues so far, and mainly that stems from their top line. Barbashev gets that huge goal the other night to finally get him off to Schneid. But oh my God, it has to start with Eichel and Stone. I mean, where else do you start with that team? I mean,
Yeah, those are the guys that you look to. Shea Theodore, he's definitely giving the Evan Bouchard special, where some games it's like,
yeah,
holy shit, this guy's unbelievable, and then the other games you're like, oh my God, this is horrendous. Aiden Hill also hasn't been phenomenal so far. Played decent in game four. I don't know what to make of this series because the Knights have stunk. There's no secret, and they're still tied. And I'm like, well, they're gonna wake up, right? And then once they wake up, it's over. But I'm starting to realize like Minnie can play. Minnie can hang with these guys. They're a fast team. They've got big guys, Foligno, Boldy. They're throwing the bodies left and right. Faber's eating minutes. Like it's nuts.
I want the Wild to win this series so bad, and they deserve it.
It'd be
You
good for
said it. They
hockey.
deserve it.
It would be good for hockey, but it would not be good for my bracket. And I
And that's what matters.
I also think, do you think Minnesota can beat Edmonton or LA?
Edmonton, yeah. LA, no.
Do you think Vegas could beat either of them? Like,
I don't know though,
I
because like,
don't
are we
know.
getting this Vegas? Like, are they
that's what
Yeah,
I don't
losing?
that
know.
that's
Yeah.
the hard part.
That's the
Yeah.
thing I can't figure out. I'm like, what version of this team is going to show up?
Because what's crazy is like I shit on Vegas and I shit on the Oilers. The Oilers are an actually bad hockey team besides those two guys that they have. Um, the Knights are like they shouldn't be bad. I just think they suck because of what we're seeing right now, if that
They're
makes
the
sense.
Rangers of the West Coast.
Yeah, they just like can suck. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
The Hurricanes.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit.
We'll see what
And
happens.
Vegas is better than the Hurricanes, but
I'm losing I'm losing my faith here. Game five goes back to T-Mobile, so that's good, I guess. But if you want my honest opinion, I really think Minnesota's gonna take this thing in seven somehow.
So I feel like if Mini played LA, that it would just be like a series of LA winning the first period and Mini attempting to come back and win the third period. And then there's just like a weird crossover point
it
halfway
would
through
be
the
a
second.
weird like butting of heads.
Like the
Like,
same team, kind
yeah,
of.
Yeah,
they're both like kind of passive. They're like, no,
right.
you try and score on us. No, you try and score on us. Like,
Exactly.
it's like,
No
okay,
one
but
wants to
but
score.
one of you has to like have the puck.
Right.
Like,
Yes. Yeah.
Like first period, LA 3-0. And
they're
then
just
like it's just
dumping the puck into each other's zones and not
literally.
going to get it.
And then like third period, it's like Minnie's like, all right, well, we got to get four.
Well, both those teams are just built for like getting a point in overtime, and it's
Yeah,
like, who's gonna tell them there's no points?
right.
Like, this is the playoffs, guys.
One guy I do want to shout out in this series. Hurdle's really the only one who's shown up for Vegas. He's been pretty good. Um, Riley
Sharks
Smith
legend.
Riley Smith has looked good. But other than that, it's like, damn man, there's not a whole lot to be bragging about with this team. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. Any other comments before we get to the last series? I know this episode's running a tiny bit long.
Yeah, I really hope Minnie can close that one out. I think the next game, if they were able to get that, would just be huge for them and would love to
Massive.
see them do it.
It's so sick that the West is all 2-2 right now.
Yeah,
I mean, just the next game is so big for
And
every
the East is
series.
all 3-1. It's like
Yeah.
yeah,
I read today, it's like the East is top heavy and everyone in the West is just killing each other.
Yeah.
pretty
Which
much.
kind of rocks for you guys. I mean, if you're thinking long term, like
Oh,
late
I'm
June.
not.
Just,
Okay.
just
Last series, and this one's a little tricky to talk about because game five is happening as we are recording this. The Avs and the Stars both tied with 2 wins, 2-2 series. Got to give a shout out to Landeskog, man. Just not only the
yeah.
comeback in game three, we talked about that last epi, but scoring a goal in game four on a pretty sweet shot. I don't have a lot to say about that game. I watched the condensed recap the morning after, and it just looked like Colorado ran fucking train all over them.
That is exactly what happened. What was crazy about that game is I thought Ottinger played out of his mind. Like, had it not been for him, we're probably looking at a lacrosse score of like 10-1. And I was kind of shocked when they took him out. I mean, they pulled him after making 31 saves through two periods. So, guys, I mean, clearly had his work cut out for him from the beginning, but
I think it's more of a give the team a jolt, and also we
absolutely
kind of know we might lose this game, so let's just rest him.
pack it in, move on to the next one, and just roll
Yeah.
four. Yeah. Got to do it sometimes. Everyone has to.
Yeah, it happens. I will say, after Blackwood gets the shutout in that game, he gives up an absolute stinker to start this game five here that Harry just mentioned is going on currently while we're recording. But yeah, we know that much. We saw the Stars Wyatt Johnston score 9 seconds into that game on a terrible angle. Just I don't know how that puck got in the net, but that's if you're the Stars, that's how you want to bounce back after getting shut out is just chip one on net and break through that barrier right away.
That's one of the ones you need. And I saw something interesting today when I was looking at the odds on DraftKings for goal scorer props today. All of the Colorado guys like to pick them anytime goal scorer. They're all +1 something. McKinnon starts at like, +120 or something like that, and it goes up from there. I think the lowest on the Dallas side was like +245. I think it might have been Sagan or someone like that. And
Because
that
it's all
just
a
says
bunch
it
of
right
yeah,
there.
it's score by committee, really.
Yes.
I mean, you
Yeah.
just never know on a nightly basis who's gonna be the guy.
Yeah.
Well, there is about 7 minutes left in the first period. Dallas has a 1-0 lead in that game five. And this is the longest amount of time they've had a lead in the series. Up until game five, they had led for a minute.
That's crazy.
And it's still 2-2. And it's like, how is this happening? So we'll see how this game shakes out. Kind of hard to talk about while it's live. And I honestly want to go kind of watch that and see what McKinnon does. So if
Yeah,
you guys, you go.
I feel like with the Stars, the last thing I'll say here is this. Like, if they somehow make it through this series, I don't know how much confidence I have in this group going very deep. Obviously, without Robo and Heiskanen, but just with their inability to really get any form of consistent point production right now.
I also think it's worth noting, we kind of talked about this in our group chat the other day. Almost every single starting goalie in every series has either had an injury issue or an injury scare or let in at least one or two goals where you're like, is this guy for real right now?
Yeah.
The only two goalies, and add one if you can think of one, that I can think of that I couldn't say one thing about being questionable or being hurt or is he the guy or not? It's Ottinger for the Stars and it's Stolars for the Leafs.
Honorable mention Darcy Kemper for the Kings.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair,
There's
actually.
been
You're right.
there's been one or two. Where the hell were you supposed to be on that one?
I
But like
guess,
as a
yeah.
Caps fan, I'm like, okay, Kemper.
Maybe Bennington. He's actually looked pretty
Yeah,
good.
actually,
Fair.
I'll
That's a
give you
good
that
one.
one too. I
Yeah,
think
Yeah.
Bennington as well. But
he's
but
looked pretty good.
it has been just weird for goalies so far this postseason,
Yeah.
just a week or so into the playoffs.
Heiskanen is he took morning skate this morning with line rushes. He's not playing in game five, but that's a good sign for Dallas.
Hmm.
If let's do a hypothetical, if this goes 7, does he play?
I'm sure he'll
Has to,
I
freaking
right?
think they'll find a way to put him in.
they'll load him up with painkillers or something. I don't know.
He'll
Like
still
that's
go
the
out
kind
there
of
and lug
What
27.
do they do in
yeah.
Finland? Like an hour of sauna and then like,
Yep.
some
Yeah.
crazy Eastern medicine type shit that they give him. But that is about all we got for all the series so far. It's a lot to keep up with. We tried to, this episode could be 3 hours long,
It
so
could be.
apologies if we
The
skip through
cap
some
segment
stuff.
alone could probably be an hour, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
welcome
I
for
could do
not doing
like
that.
I could do 4 hours on what went wrong in game 3, but we'll
Right.
spare everyone.
Yep.
So any final notes from you fellas before we wrap up?
Let's go Caps.
Let's close her down on Wednesday. Holy shit. Don't make me
Puck
go back to the
line.
Bell Center.
Yeah.
Puck line, puck line, puck line Wednesday if you're a Caps fan. I promise you. Just
Knock on
trust me.
wood.
All right. Appreciate the love and support as always, and we will talk to you in the next one.